Nicole, Glenda, Lisa Mash, Lester Taylor, Emily. What's up, you guys? It's nice to see you. Happy that you're joined. What's going on? So I'm just pulling up some information. Thank you so much for joining. And some of this is urban legend, but some of it's also true. Do you hear me typing away? Okay. Now that you guys are all here, I am going to begin recording. Thank you for joining. Here we go. It's another episode of Strange Occurrences. I am the Gothic Rose, and you can find me live every Wednesday on TikTok at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And of course, you can catch up on Spotify and YouTube. Spotify and YouTube do have slightly different content, so you can check both of those out, but a lot of it does combine. And if you have a story you'd like to share with me, you can email me at strangeoccurrencesthepodcast@gmail.com. I do ask that you are 21 and over if you'd like to be a guest on the show, but I will take your story in any kind of form, whether it's an email from a personal story, a Reddit link, something like that. Now, what I'm talking about right now is through the Associated Press, the Pentagon was talking about some sort of crafts. Right now, they're kind of like, hey, it's all out there. And last summer, there was that supposed, but it seemed to be real and no one was able to debunk it, that alien encounter in Las Vegas. Very, very interesting. And some experts that had even looked at the footage was saying something like, this doesn't look manufactured in any way. And supposedly or allegedly, there was that all of those police cars around the Miami Mall, and they said that there was some sort of a creature in the mall. Very stranger things on Strange Occurrences here. But I find this so interesting, so I wanted to come here and share stuff with you, because on Strange Occurrences, I talk about all of these things. And as I have said, if you didn't know before, I live in the Catskill Mountains, which has a lot of sightings and has had a lot of sightings since the 70s and 80s. It was huge. You can go back and check out my podcast, The Lights Over Bullville, which happened in the 80s, Route 302 in Bullville. There are eyewitness accounts. There are lots of people that still talk about it. And that is in the area of Pine Bush, New York. And Pine Bush is home to the UFO and Paranormal Museum. And every June, the first weekend, whether it's a Saturday or the rain date on Sunday, there is a UFO and Paranormal Parade and Fair, which is second largest in the country, only to Roswell, of course. But Pine Bush happens to be the UFO capital sighting, they say, of the world. Maybe it's the Northeast, but there have been a lot of sightings here. And we even have some photos of some very strange things over our house, which I will be posting to TikTok later. You guys can tell me what you think. So this new Pentagon report on UFOs includes hundreds of new incidents, but no evidence of aliens. So Washington, D.C., let's see, this was written by David Klepper 6 days ago. So the Pentagon's latest report on UFOs has revealed hundreds of new reports of unidentified and unexplained aerial phenomena, but no indications suggesting an extraterrestrial origin. So where could they be coming from? Is this just a bunch of billionaires who have bought some parts and put them together and they're flying them around and they're not telling us? We don't know. Could be anything. So While it isn't likely to settle any debates over the existence of alien life, the report reflects the heightened public interest in the topic and the government's efforts to provide some answers. Its publication comes a day after House lawmakers called for greater government transparency during a hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAPs, the government's term for UFOs. Federal efforts to study and identify UAPs have focused on potential threats to national safety or air safety and not their science fiction aspects. That is the interesting part. National safety or air safety. Officials at the Pentagon office created in 2022 to track UAPs known as All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, and have said there's no indication of any of these cases they looked into that have unearthly origins. It's important to underscore that to date, AARO has discovered no evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology. Now, if you guys remember Project Blue Book, right? Let's just do a deep or a live dive into Project Blue Book. And it was a show on the History Channel. I watched it. It was pretty good. I think it only had a couple of seasons though. So this was the code name for the systematic study of oh my Lord, speaking today. 1 second. Project Blue Book, take 2. Was the code name for the systematic study of unidentified flying objects by the United States Air Force from March 1952 to its termination on December 17th, 1969. So that is quite an amount of years where these people went and took reports of people who saw things in the sky. So it was actually a really good show on the History Channel. The project, headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, was initially directed by Captain Edward J. Ruppelt and followed projects of a similar nature, such as Project Sign, established in 1947, and Project Grunge in 1949. Do you guys know of these? I've never heard of these. Project Blue Book had 2 goals, namely to determine if UFOs were a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze UFO-related data. So let's find out what Project Sign is from 1947. This was an official U.S. government study of unidentified flying objects, UFOs, undertaken by the United States Air Force and was active for most of 1948. It was the precursor to Project Grudge. Project Grudge was a short-lived project by the U.S. Air Force to investigate unidentified flying objects. Grudge succeeded Project Sign in 1949 and was followed by Project Blue Book, and there you go. It was ended in 1949, and there's no more studies that we know of. So let's get to the Catskill areas and these quote-unquote dead lakes. Now, throughout the 70s and 80s, a lot of military people moved to the area of Pine Bush, New York, particularly the Air Force. And what they used to do in a field that I drive by all the time right now, which is so strange, is they used to set up cameras to watch things in the sky. Now, it could have been flying objects. They could have been looking for satellites back then. They could have been looking for stars. They could have been looking for absolutely anything. We don't have all of the answers. But from the locals themselves, they used to watch the show, the lights. They would call it the show. And people would set up chairs in this field And they would say that these lights would come up over the mountain and just make different formations and, go together and go apart. And then they would light up really, really bright. So you'd have to look away and then they would take off. But to the people on either side of the mountain that were seeing these things, each side of the mountain believed that these craft were disappearing on the other side. The rumor, the conspiracy theory, the urban legend is that these craft actually went underwater into what they call these dead lakes. And they were so acidic from whatever was going on with these craft that nothing grew there for years. Now, just to drop some logic in, lakes like Lake Minnewaska, which is considered one of these dead lakes, and some of the other lakes in the area of the Catskill Mountains were part of resorts back in the 1920s and the 1930s. So they would put chlorine in these waters so that people could swim without fish or algae or whatever. So they could have put so much chlorine into these lakes that nothing grew. But things are starting to show life again. So it's just interesting to me because there are these 3 lakes that have had no life in them for the longest time, and people have seen lights in the sky here. Like, we'll just talk about something strange that happens and someone in this area will just say, oh yeah, that's just the aliens. And it's just an accepted answer around here. I wonder if it's the same in Roswell. But I would like to know out there for anyone, have you had an experience seeing any sort of lights in the sky? We've seen some weird things here and there, but sometimes you can explain them. Sometimes you cannot. So, Minnewaska State Park, these lakes in the Schwungam mountain ridge are often referred to as sky lakes because they are also very clear because nothing grows in them. Now, they do get little rare forms of moss and some salamanders, and I know that that's true because I found a salamander in my bathroom one day after visiting Minnewaska State Park. I don't know what it climbed into, but it was there. But it's just interesting because we don't know the answers. And I don't know if you guys truly believe in these things or not, but now that the Pentagon is coming out saying that there are these UAPs and it could be national security and it could be air safety, which definitely I see, is it believable that these are not made of from Earth, like they're not made of earthly materials? Or is it more believable that they are made on Earth and they are put in the way to interfere? Lots of questions, lots and lots and lots of questions. But what I do know is that back before the internet, back before people had phone cameras, 40, 50 years ago, when we were out, if you managed to capture something on camera that you had with you in the car, which was not likely, or on film, it was pretty amazing. It was pretty special because you could see things and talk about it, but who was going to believe you? And even now, who believes, right? Like if I told you, and I've said it before, I had an experience just recently that seemed otherworldly, that I will talk about when I get to my 10K here on TikTok, So if you want to help me get to 10K, go ahead and share this and follow and all of that. But I did have a very strange experience, and you could believe it, not believe it, but I will tell it when I hit that 10K, because we got to get somewhere, right? We've got to have a goal. But so many people that I have spoken to have had experiences. So let's get back to the Pine Bush Paranormal Museum. I have spoken about this quite a bit. And I think not this past year, but the year before at the Alien Fest, I like to call it the Alien Fest, I met Travis Walton. So if you are a UFO enthusiast, you know that Travis Walton has one of the most insane UFO abduction cases ever. And it happened November 5th, 1975. So 49 years ago. And Travis Walton was reported missing, and 6 members of the crew that he was driving with claimed that they were driving down the road and they saw this lit object, and Travis got out of the car or the truck and he ran towards the object, and it shone a light on him, and all of these people drove away in fear. And then they came back 15 minutes later and they found that Travis Walton and the light were gone. So they called the police, and the police thought that these men had something to do with it, and they were questioned. And then 5 days later, Travis Walton he wakes up or something in the middle of this field and happens to find a payphone, because we had payphones back in the day and you could collect calls unless he had his dime on him. And he called his brother or brother-in-law or a family member and said it was him. He thought it was the same day. It was 5 days later. People thought this was a hoax. I met him, and his energy was something I can't explain. He had a very kind face, and he had his book, and he had signed it. And he said, this is about my alien abduction. I am the abductee. And I knew it, and I knew who he was. I knew his face. I had seen him before. I'd heard the story before. And I didn't expect to be that close to someone who had had such a famous experience like that. So I was kind of like, oh my goodness, and kind of just like flabbergasted. And I didn't have enough money for the book, so I didn't get it. I wish I would have. And right next to him was the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, and she was very nice too. And there wasn't a lot of time to talk to her. I think I just said hello. And it was just interesting to have all of these people there. And if you want to check out their website, the Pine Bush UFO and Paranormal Museum, check them out and just look at what they have. They even have a whole paranormal room with trigger objects and everything. It's a very interesting place. So the movie is called Fire in the Sky. And it's just interesting how these things can happen. And they are unexplainable. They are strange. But these lakes here, these dead lakes, I'm not sure what to think. Because I looked up. Did they put chlorine in the water? And some places say yes and some places say no, but how much chlorine? These lakes are huge. They go down for miles. You can't even dive to the bottom. They are so deep because they're in a mountain. They're sky lakes. So how much chlorine can go into a lake to render it uninhabitable for any kind of life? Could it have been something more? We don't know. But with that, I am going to leave you with this week's Strange Occurrences. the dead lakes. Let me know what you guys think. I am the Gothic Rose. Thank you for joining me for this week's dark entertainment, and I will catch you on the next episode. What do you guys think? Decent story? Not a decent story? So, this story, if you're just catching up now that I just finished, will be up tomorrow on Spotify and later tomorrow on YouTube. There will be illustrations and things, I think. No, actually, it might be this live that I will download. So you can find that on YouTube. There is other content on Spotify that is not on YouTube. So YouTube has a lot of my lifestyle stuff, some of my blogs, some of my TikToks, things like that. And Spotify, because to me, they give you a lot of free range, if you know what I'm saying. That is where I give you everything I'm thinking. Everything. So, I appreciate you guys for joining me on this week's live. I know that it was a little bit quick, but if anybody out there has a minute and you want to give me a heart if you believe that there is UFO alien life out there, go ahead and give me a laughing emoji if you think that that's not true. So let me know. No, give me an alien head if you think it is true, and give me a laughing emoji if you think that it's not true, that there are aliens out there. Could there be? Could there be? We don't know. We have no idea. But what we do know is that there's a lot of questions. I hate that they filter comments. Stop filtering comments. If that's like the only comment that I'm going to get, I want the comment. What's the experience? Like, it's okay. I'm a big girl. What do you want to say? I'm a little loony? It's all right. I'm just asking a question. Was that you? Who was it? So anyway, yeah. Have any of you ever seen any lights in the sky? Anyone? Bueller? Do you think that these ships disappear underwater? That's funny because that was one of the last scenes of Project Blue Book. It was about like going underwater. I mean, it's a great place to hide, right? Totally great place to hide. I don't like that there were filtered comments. Can I find it? Am I allowed to find the comment? Oh well. All right, well, I have recorded the podcast. It will be up tomorrow on Spotify and YouTube, and peace out.